All right, so are you ready for a deep dive that will make you rethink how relationships really work?
I'm ready.
Okay, good, because this one you sent in is it's a fascinating one.
Yeah.
It's a YouTube video called 448 ES Marina, Las Culebras Hypnosis Regresiva in Bogotá, Calogero Grifasi.
Hmm.
And it's a hypnosis session conducted in Spanish.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And things get pretty intense.
I bet.
So we're going to try to unpack what this session might reveal about snakes
Okay.
and how those relate to energy dynamics
Right.
and, of course, personal relationships.
You know, it's so interesting how those three concepts can all kind of be woven together.
Yeah.
Like, you don't always think about them together, but
Right.
they really do have those hidden layers of meaning.
Yeah, and this session focuses on Marina, a woman who's having some major relationship problems.
Okay.
She's recently divorced. Her current marriage is struggling.
Oh, wow.
And she's also distant from her siblings, many of whom are also divorced.
Oh, so there's a lot of, like, family drama going on.
Yeah, it's a lot for one person to be dealing with.
Yeah. You know, that does highlight something I think a lot of people go through at some point in their lives.
Yeah.
Relationship
Yeah,
challenges.
right.
But the way that these problems are manifesting for Marina is pretty fascinating.
They really are, and it gets really wild when the hypnotist takes her into a dream state.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she describes being covered in snakes.
Oh, no.
20 of them all the way up to her face.
Oh, my gosh.
So, yeah, no wonder she's feeling pretty desperate.
I can only imagine feeling that feeling of being covered in snakes.
Yeah.
That's a powerful image. And snakes, you know, they often symbolize primal energy.
Yeah.
But in this case, they're practically suffocating her, you know?
Right.
So it makes me wonder if the snakes here are representing like that fear of being alone
Oh, yeah?
that so often comes with divorce and family estrangement.
That's a really good point.
It's like a primal fear, you know?
It is.
And you can feel very alone
Yeah.
when all these relationships are breaking down around you.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but it does make you wonder if these snakes are like a manifestation of her inner struggles.
Right.
Just projected outwards.
Exactly, yeah.
Hmm.
And then there's Nan,
Okay.
this tall figure that Marina says is the leader of the snakes.
Ooh.
It reminded me of egregores.
Okay.
You know, those thought forms
Uh-huh.
that are created and fueled by collective energy.
Oh, wow.
But usually when we see egregores like this, people are aware of their existence.
Right.
So in this case, do you think it's possible that Marina's family is subconsciously feeding this Nan entity?
That is a good question.
Yeah.
And it gets even more complicated when we hear about the red spots that start appearing on Marina's body.
Really? Where?
On her back, her chest, and her stomach during the session.
Oh.
And there's 20 spots,
Oh, wow.
mirroring the 20 snakes.
Okay, so that can't be a coincidence.
No, I don't think so.
The hypnotist suggests that these spots are how the snakes are trying to connect to Marina. Almost like these little energetic portals or entry points.
Oh, wow.
It definitely gives that idea of energy being drained, you know,
It does.
like something is pulling at her,
This makes me think of energy vampires.
right?
Like, is that what we were saying here? That Marina's surrounded by literal energy vampires?
That is the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so easy to externalize our problems and to
Yeah.
view them
Yeah.
as these entities attacking us from the outside.
Yeah.
But what if these so-called vampires are just reflections of our own internal struggles? Our negative thought patterns or self-sabotaging behaviors?
This part of the session really gave me chills.
I bet.
Because it's like, by giving these snakes an actual form,
Uh-huh.
Marina's starting to maybe recognize her own role in all of this.
Right.
And then the hypnotist asks Marina to visualize giving the snakes energy
Oh,
and then taking it back.
interesting.
And what happens? This culebrón. Yeah, that's what the hypnotist calls the snake entity. It weakens when it doesn't have that energy anymore.
Oh, so it's like she was feeding them.
Yeah, and this whole experiment is so interesting because it shows how powerful belief can be.
Right.
The hypnotist even says, as you are power, everything you believe you are creating.
Wow. That's a powerful statement.
It is.
It is.
So if Marina believes that these snakes are draining her, then she might be unconsciously giving them that power
Yeah.
with her anxieties and insecurities.
Exactly. And that brings us to this idea of permissions.
Okay.
We so often unknowingly allow negative energies or influences to just enter our lives,
Yeah.
especially when we're feeling vulnerable.
So Marina's desperation about her divorce and her relationships could be creating this opening
Yeah.
for these snakes to latch on.
Like leaving the back door unlocked and wondering how those raccoons got in your garbage.
Right.
You're giving them the opportunity, even if you don't realize you are doing it.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
So we've got snakes, we've got potential energy vampires, and this idea of giving permission.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't forget that Marina is here for help with real, very human relationship problems.
Right, of course.
And so the hypnotist starts to explore Marina's relationship with her husband.
Okay.
And there's this feeling of a wall, like a wall of ice and water, as she puts it.
Oh, wow.
And she feels that same wall when she thinks about her siblings, too.
It sounds like this feeling of being overwhelmed by the snakes, almost suffocated by them.
Uh-huh.
It really mirrors how she's feeling in these relationships, too.
Yeah.
Like she's putting up walls and isolating herself.
Right.
But it's not clear if those walls are protecting her
Right.
or trapping her even more.
That's a good point. We've been talking about energy vampires.
Yeah.
But could it be that these metaphorical walls, the self-imposed isolation, are what's really draining Marina?
That is definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
One worth exploring. And it seems like the hypnotist is trying to nudge her in that direction by suggesting that these relationship issues may not be due to something esoteric at all.
Really?
Yeah, but rather a mismatch in levels of consciousness.
Okay, hold on.
Or just straight up incompatibility.
What exactly does that mean, levels of consciousness?
Well, that's a pretty complex concept that needs some more explanation.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect place to pause for now.
Right?
We'll pick up this discussion in our next segment.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so about levels of consciousness,
Right.
I think we need to clarify what we mean.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's a concept that suggests that the relationships we attract are kind of like a mirror to our own inner world.
Okay.
Like our level of awareness or how much we've grown.
So it's not about one person being better or worse than the other.
No, not at all.
But more about being on different wavelengths.
Exactly.
Kind of like vibrating at different frequencies.
Like think of tuning a radio.
Okay.
If you're on a rock station, you're not going to pick up classical music.
Right.
Even if you try really hard. Yeah, it's just a different frequency.
Yeah, one's not better than the other. They're just different.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks.
So in Marina's case, if she's feeling insecure or desperate in her relationships, she might be attracting people who are also operating from that same place.
Yeah.
Like that neediness and instability.
It's definitely a pattern to think about.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed how certain types of people just seem to gravitate towards you, even when you're not looking for them?
Yeah.
It could be that you're putting out signals
Right.
that attract those specific energies.
Now that you mention it, there was a time in my life after a really bad breakup
Oh, yeah.
when I kept attracting emotionally unavailable partners.
No, they've been there.
It was like I had this huge sign over my head that said, "Drama queen seeks more drama."
It's funny how we do that.
Yeah.
Like we create these patterns unconsciously.
Right.
But the good news is once you're aware of them,
Yeah.
you can start to change them.
So if we're feeling drained by certain relationships, it might be a sign that we need to step back
Yeah,
and look at those connections.
totally. And maybe set some healthy boundaries.
Okay, so boundaries are important
Super important.
for protecting our energy.
Yes, they're crucial for maintaining your own energetic integrity.
Thinking back to Marina and those walls that she described,
Yeah.
it's like she was trying to protect herself,
Yeah.
but maybe those walls were also preventing her from really connecting.
It's a tricky balance, isn't it?
It is.
Because boundaries aren't about shutting people out completely.
Right.
It's more about creating a safe space
Okay.
for healthy interaction. Think of it like a fence around a garden.
Okay.
Keeps the rabbits out, but lets the sunlight and rain in to nourish the plants.
I like that visual. Yeah. So we're not building fortresses.
Right.
We're building gardens
Exactly.
with fences.
Yes.
Okay. But how do we know when it's time to build that fence,
That's when you have to tune into your intuition.
Okay.
Pay attention to how you feel when you're around certain people.
Hmm.
Do you feel energized, uplifted,
Right.
or do you feel drained and exhausted?
Yeah.
Your body will tell you.
So it's not just about the other person, it's about how we react to them energetically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have a choice in how we engage with the world.
Right.
We can be reactive and let other people's energy dictate our emotions.
Yeah.
Or we can be proactive and consciously manage our own energy.
And set boundaries.
And set boundaries, exactly.
It's like the hypnotist is guiding Marina to realize that, to take back her power.
Yes.
And then we get to the end of the session
Okay.
where she's asked to picture her future.
Okay, and what does she see?
And it's incredibly hopeful.
Oh, good.
A happy, long-lasting marriage, a loving relationship with her daughters.
Aw.
And this is interesting, a sense of indifference towards her siblings.
Hmm.
So it's a beautiful vision.
It is.
And it shows how transformative it can be to release negative energy and adopt a more positive outlook.
It does, but I'm curious, what do you think?
Yeah.
Is Marina's vision just wishful thinking? Or is it a glimpse into a future she can now create because she's empowered?
That's a great question, and I think it might be a bit of both.
Okay.
We all have the power to shape our reality,
Yeah.
but that power is often limited by our beliefs and perceptions.
Yeah, I agree.
When we let go of those limiting beliefs and embrace a more positive outlook, we open ourselves up to new possibilities.
It's like clearing the weeds from a garden
Yes,
and planting new seeds.
exactly. But planting the seeds isn't enough.
No, it's not.
We have to tend to the garden,
Yes.
nourish it, protect it from the elements.
You have to do the work.
Right. So in Marina's case, by releasing this molestia, this discomfort caused by the snakes,
Uh-huh.
she might be creating the conditions for a more fulfilling future.
Right.
But she still has to do the work, cultivate those new relationships,
Yeah.
and nurture her own growth.
Exactly. Transformation is a process. It doesn't just happen overnight.
Right.
It takes conscious effort, self-awareness, and a willingness to learn and grow.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly.
You know, this reminds me of a time when I was feeling completely stuck in my career.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like hitting a wall,
Wow.
just like Marina with her relationships. And I went to see an energy healer.
Okay.
And she told me I was blocking my own success
Oh, wow.
with all these limiting beliefs and self-sabotaging behaviors.
Oh, that must have been hard to hear.
It was tough, but it was what I needed.
And what happened?
Well, I started doing a lot of inner work. I
Right.
meditated, I journaled. I really tried to shift my mindset
Okay.
from scarcity to abundance.
Wow, good for you.
And slowly, things started to change.
That's great.
I got a new job that I loved.
Awesome.
And I felt so much more confident and empowered.
That's a fantastic example
Thanks.
of how taking ownership of your energy and your beliefs
Yeah.
can actually create change.
It's not always easy, but it's worth it.
It is.
So we started this deep dive talking about snakes and energy vampires. And now we're discussing boundaries, self-awareness, and healthy relationships.
It's amazing how these things are all connected.
It really is. It speaks to the interconnectedness of everything.
It does.
And it reminds us that every experience we have, whether it's a relationship challenge, a health issue, or even a career setback,
Yeah.
it's all an opportunity for growth and transformation.
I love that.
So what's the big takeaway for our listeners?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. We are not just victims of circumstance. We have the power to choose our thoughts, set boundaries, and cultivate relationships that make us feel good.
That's such a powerful message.
And the more aware we are of those subtle energetic dynamics,
Yeah.
the more empowered we are to create a life that really feels aligned with our highest good.
I think that's the perfect way to wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a flash to explore another fascinating topic.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we're back, and I gotta say, I'm still thinking about that garden analogy.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It really is. And even if you're not, totally buying into the whole energy vampire idea,
Right.
I think there's still a lot we can all learn from Marina's story.
Oh, for sure.
Because haven't we all had those relationships that just feel draining?
Oh, yeah.
Like they're taking way more than they're giving.
Absolutely. And, regardless of whether or not we believe in all these like esoteric explanations,
Right.
our interactions with other people, they do have a real impact on our energy levels
Right.
and our overall well-being.
Think about it like this.
Okay.
We're all walking around with these invisible energy fields, and we're constantly interacting with the energy fields of other people and places and even ideas.
It's true.
So just like we have to be mindful of our physical boundaries,
Right.
we also have to be aware of our energetic boundaries.
Yeah.
Who are we letting into our space?
Right.
What energies are we allowing to influence us?
Makes you think about those friends who just energize you versus those who make you feel like you need a nap.
That's such a good point.
It's a classic example of energetic exchange.
Right.
We're always giving and receiving energy, whether we realize it or not.
So the more we understand these dynamics, the better choices we can make.
Exactly.
About the relationships and environments that we're in.
That support our well-being.
Exactly. So if we're feeling drained by someone or something,
Yeah.
maybe it's a sign that we need to step back
Totally.
and reevaluate that relationship or situation.
Let's set some boundaries.
Right. Boundaries are so important
So important.
for protecting our energy.
Yes, they're crucial for maintaining your energetic integrity.
And thinking back to Marina's session
Yeah,
and those walls she kept describing,
right.
I wonder if that was her way of trying to set boundaries,
It's possible.
but in a way that ended up isolating her.
Right, because boundaries aren't about shutting everyone out.
Right.
It's about creating a safe space for yourself.
Yeah. And then the hypnotist suggests that her relationship problems might be due to
Oh, yeah.
a mismatch in levels of consciousness or incompatibility.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Well, it's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
It suggests that we attract relationships that mirror our own level of awareness and
Right.
growth.
So does it mean one person is better than the other?
No, not at all.
It just means they're on different paths.
Right, or at different stages in their journey.
And sometimes those paths just go in different directions.
It happens.
And we have to let go of those relationships,
Yeah, even though it can be hard,
especially with family.
of course, with family or long-term relationships.
But sometimes letting go is the best thing.
It is. Sometimes it's the kindest thing you can do.
For ourselves and for them.
Exactly. It frees everyone up to move on.
It's like realizing that love doesn't always mean holding on.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it means letting go.
Even when it's painful.
Yeah. And this brings us back to Marina's future vision, where she talks about feeling indifferent towards her siblings.
Yeah.
Do you think that's her way of letting go?
I think it's a little more than that.
Okay.
I don't think indifference means she doesn't care. Maybe she's reached a place of acceptance
Mm-hmm.
and detachment
Okay.
where she can love them from a distance
Yeah.
without having to engage
All right.
relationships that are unhealthy or draining.
So she's choosing peace over obligation.
Exactly.
That's beautiful.
It is.
It shows how setting boundaries and being more self-aware
Yeah.
can lead to peace and harmony.
For sure, within ourselves and in our relationships.
So we started this deep dive talking about snakes and energy vampires.
We did.
And now we've landed on this discussion of boundaries, self-awareness, and healthy relationships.
It's all connected.
It's amazing.
It is. It speaks to how interconnected everything really is.
And it reminds us that every experience is an opportunity for growth and transformation.
I love that.
So what's the big takeaway for our listeners today?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. We are not powerless.
Okay.
We have the power to choose our thoughts, set our boundaries, and cultivate relationships that nourish us.
That's so powerful.
And the more aware we are of those subtle energetic dynamics, the more we can create a life that feels aligned with our highest good.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
It is.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into energy and relationships
It was my pleasure.
and the power of self-awareness.
Yes.
We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic, but until then, keep exploring,
Yes.
keep questioning, and keep expanding your awareness because the journey never ends.
It never does.